Hello, my name is Andrew and I'm a 22-year-old university student. In today's video, I will be explaining the importance of English language GCSE, a GCSE that an alarming amount of students continue to consider as irrelevant. So GCSE English language is one of the core subjects that are required to progress further into education or in employment. This means that English language is actually more important than English literature. Most apprenticeships require a grade 4, which is a low pass, or equivalent to the grade C on the old scale, in English language as a qualification to move on. But beyond this statistic, I wanted to share some of my personal experience about the importance of this qualification and how excelling in the GCSE has better prepared me for later life. So I study at St John's College, Cambridge University, and although I do not study English, my studies of English language GCSE have prepared me in ways I could not even imagine for a plethora of opportunities later on down the line. So, for example, when you apply to university in the UK, you have to fill in a personal statement, which used to just be one long motivation letter, but now comes in the form of several shorter questions, which still are about your motivation to study your specific course at university. Beyond the importance of studying hard in your English language GCSE lessons and scoring a high grade for your CV and for your applications to university, these transferable skills are actually very important for this specific part of the application process. Because when you are writing answers to these questions, the way that you express yourself is actually of utmost importance to the people at the receiving universities, the admissions team, who are deciding whether to offer you a place or not. I went to a grammar school and we had a lot of Oxbridge applicants in my year group. What I realised separated many students from receiving an offer from Oxbridge and not receiving an offer was this personal statement. For example, I know somebody, a close friend of mine actually, who scored all 9s at GCSE, but he scored 6 in English language and English literature. And he thought that wouldn't really matter because he was applying to study maths at Oxford. And actually, during his application, he was rejected without an interview because of these 2 lower grades in the essay subjects. You don't have to be a perfect applicant to get into Oxford or Cambridge, but they are looking for a well-rounded applicant. So considering he went to a good school and he did not score such high grades in the essay subjects, that right off the bat was the reason that he was rejected from his dream university. And this was an absolute shock for me because he was a very, very strong mathematician, probably the best mathematician that I've ever known, and purely because of his lower grade in English language, he actually failed to gain a place at this at such a prestigious university. On the contrary, I was very happy to receive a grade 9 in English literature and a grade 8 in English language. These results complemented the rest of my grades, so overall I got 8 9s, 3 8s and an A star. And the fact that I had a solid performance throughout, strong performance mainly in mathematics, GCSE and English language, showed that I was a strong candidate for Cambridge University. Beyond that, as I previously mentioned, the travel opportunities, specifically, that I have gained during my first 4 years at Cambridge have undoubtedly been due to these transferable skills that I gained from English language GCSE. So many times in life, we're going to have to write an application letter or try and justify in writing a reason why either we need to get something paid for by a company, why we need to get extra arrangements for a specific exam or a specific event, or just write a persuasive letter to get our own way in whatever situation it may be. And I'm very happy to announce that I have lived in 5 countries over the last 4 years, thanks to many generous travel scholarships provided for by my university. Each of these are very competitive, some with only having one space per year and hundreds of applicants. And obviously with such a competitive nature, I still do get rejected quite a lot of the time because it's impossible to get chosen every time. But I've had strong enough written applications to be accepted within a pool of Oxbridge candidates, within a pool of Cambridge University students, to then be chosen to represent the university on certain exchanges in Spain, Brazil, Italy, Martinique, and Portugal. So there's been numerous times when not my creative writing skills, my persuasive writing skills have done exactly that. They've persuaded the board of I don't know what you'd call it, but the team who decides who to give the scholarships to. I've been able to persuade them that I'm a worthy candidate of traveling abroad for a specific reason that will enhance my studies. So this is the first thing I would really like to hone in on, is that gaining English language skills is so important, not just for the grade that you're going to get on results day, but actually for later on down the line when you will need to be using these exact same skills to essentially get what you want. I wanted to now touch upon a few misconceptions. I think that people think that with English language you're either good at writing essays or you're bad. And it's true in a certain sense. In any subject there are certain students who are going to be stronger at a certain subject than others. So for example, I was naturally more mathematical, I was better at maths than art, for example, or I was better at modern languages like French than sciences. So I had a natural inclination towards these subjects. However, I think the problem with English language is that people really assume, and they like to make an excuse that you cannot study for it, and you're either naturally really good at writing, and in which case you'll get a great grade, or, you know, I'm not very good, whatever, I'll do the exam, but I'm not going to study. And this is a very problematic mindset because it's based on a little grain of truth. Obviously, some people are naturally better than others in English language, but it is not true. Some students might think that the marking is completely subjective and just depends on the examiner and how they're feeling, and you know, one same exam script might be marked as a grade 4 or a grade 8 depending on the examiner, and this is not at all true. So the examiners have to follow certain criteria, and it's easier than you think to signpost to the examiner that you are a higher level student. So for example, you can practice and study for English language and practice certain techniques which are going to elevate your grade. It's obviously a different form of practice and is reliant on feedback, unlike mathematics GCSE, where, for example, you can just download lots of past papers, do them in your own time at home, and then mark them by yourself with the work solutions or mark scheme. This is obviously slightly different with English because although you can do past papers and practice your writing skills, you will obviously need feedback from a teacher to improve. So this is the slight difference, but I want to really completely get rid of this myth that you cannot revise for English language. You can revise, I've written a list here, you can practice exam technique, analysis of non-fiction texts, and writing for specific purposes. So this can be formal letters, articles, persuasive writing. This might not sound as exciting and the gratification is not as immediate as studying for maths, because sometimes it can feel like you get the mark scheme, you see the right answers right away, whereas for English you might have to wait to receive feedback on your writing. However, it is nonetheless extremely worthwhile. And this is why I finally wanted to touch upon Caroline's Elite English course. I was lucky enough to be taught by her actually in 2019. Yeah, 2019 was when I did my GCSEs, so 6 years ago now. And in preparation during my years 10 and 11, I unfortunately did not have an English teacher at school because she had an accident, and so I had to supply for the entire of year 10. And this meant that obviously, despite going to a good school, I had massive gaps in my knowledge, and this is where Caroline came in to save the day. Although she was not offering the Elite English course back then, she was teaching me essentially the same content, and it was completely game-changing. I would absolutely no way have achieved the 8 and 9 because she tutored me for both. Obviously now she's focusing on English language, but I would have there's no way I would have received the top grades that I did, which enabled me to get into my dream university, Cambridge, without her support. I think one of the best things that Caroline's classes offer is really that she is so wise and knows so much about exactly these specific small techniques or small signposts, I'd say, which can show the examiner that you are a higher level candidate. Um, for example, she's been working as an English teacher for over 25 years and also worked as an AQA examiner. So she's gone through all of the formal training that all other examiners go through. So she knows exactly the insider point. She knows an insider point of view that I don't think really many other English teachers or tutors will have unless they've worked in the same position as her. So this is really where Caroline's strengths lie, and I would encourage you to check out her free resource, which you can find a link for in the description of her YouTube channel and also for this video. So that's all I've got to say for today. I just wanted to share my positive experience of studying English language and honestly to thank Caroline for all her support for me. So thank you very much for listening and stay tuned for more videos. Caroline also has posted a lot of content on Instagram, so check that all out in the description. Thank you so much and take care. Bye.